Hazardous attitudes. Hazardous attitudes are something that can be a big problem no matter what your line of work. This can be a problem if you're a musician. It can be a problem if you're in education. It can be a problem anywhere. If you work at Dairy Queen, if you work in a dangerous job, this is very, very important. If you work in media, if you work online. Hazardous attitudes are something that I've been repeatedly trained on over the years in different professional fields. Now, in professional fields, as an entrepreneur, one would have to take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and actually implement this into your training as an entrepreneur if you weren't trained on this. So I think I'm identifying that maybe this lesson will help a lot of people who don't understand where problems are coming from and what the malfunction is. This is one of the most universal problems you'll see in the world, in the workforce, at church, everywhere where men dwell together. Hazardous attitudes is almost exclusively always the problem. That's the common denominator of malfunctions. Okay? For context, I'm going to read to you. I am currently doing some studying for a class that I'm in. I do continued training of various types throughout the year, particularly in the winter. This is an FAA class I'm doing to study for one of their exams. And this came up as the second to last lesson in the class. Right before, I think they're going to talk about PAVE, the acronym, like the PAVE checklist. So hazardous attitudes came up towards the end, right after it's talking about safety management systems, situational awareness. The common denominator usually is like 80%, for example, 80% of aviation incidents or incidents on the stage or incidents in social media or incidents in your backyard are human factors. Did you know that's like a fact? Okay? So if that's true and it's 80% is us and our bad attitudes, this should help tremendously. Now, again, I worked in a variety of different, very dangerous jobs, not as an entrepreneur, but as a part of a larger system that had a more robust training program. So to me, this is not new information. I assumed, and we all assume, that everyone would kind of be instructed on this, but they're not. So for the sake of those who never went through something like a formal profession where this would be part of your actual, you'd have to actually learn these things continuously, and you'd be held accountable for these things in a professional environment where you're underneath a structure of accountability. This may be helpful even for entrepreneurs or anybody who's experiencing any kind of drama. So I'll just read these verbatim from my class. I'm going to task stack. We teach all that on Patreon. Brother Saw teaches task stacking as well. And I'm just going to study for my test, learn the material again. I've read this probably, I don't know how many dozens and dozens and dozens of times over the years. It seems like it's always talked about at every job I've ever been at. And now as an entrepreneur, it's important for me to remember these things. So hazardous attitudes. The attitude, now in this context, it'll be a pilot, okay? The attitude of a pilot is a key factor in a safe flying practice. Now apply that to anything. Flying through life, flying through your business, your relationships. Knowing and identifying hazardous attitudes is important and should be easily identified by the pilot. Easily identified by the entrepreneur, by the man of the house, easily identified by the adult in the room, by the pastor, by the chief, whatever, whoever's in charge of that aircraft needs to be able to easily identify hazardous attitudes. Because 80%, I'm reiterating that, of our problems are human related. And this is a big chunk of it. First one, anti-authority. Anti-authority? That's like an entire category of people that we sometimes look up to. Did you know that the 1776, 1775 attitude of Americans before the Revolutionary War, just for context, did not have an anti-authority attitude? Read history. They had very tight communal accountability networks. They were churches in those days. They had high social accountability standards. And just because they had a revolution against the King of England, that wasn't actually the reason. It wasn't and see, the unlearned and uneducated and adolescents in this country would like to reframe history to support our adolescent knee-jerk anti-authority, don't tell me what to do attitude. That is not why that happened. And that's not why this country was blessed for over 200 solid years. Okay? When this attitude started to develop is when the country started to fall. You can read all the founding fathers, they expound on this. Anti-authority, don't tell me, quote, so I'm reading from the paper here. This attitude is found in people who do not like anyone telling them what to do. In a sense, they are saying, quote, no one can tell me what to do, unquote. They may be resentful of having someone tell them what to do, or may regard rules, regulations, and procedures as silly or unnecessary. However, it is always your prerogative to question authority if you feel it is an error. Wow, that was well put. Good thing I'm just reading from this class lesson here, right? You can question authority if you feel it's an error, but you don't have the anti-authority attitude. You're not against authority. You just want the authority to be applied correctly. Big difference. And that was the historical key to understanding why we're blessed after that incident there. Impulsivity. Quote, do it quickly. This attitude of people who frequently feel the need to do something, anything immediately. They do not stop to think about what they are about to do. They do not select the best alternatives, but instead they do the first thing that comes to mind. Man, I know people like this and they are gone. Like knee-jerk reaction, emotional outburst. They said the impulsive deal, these people are a safety hazard, okay? Invulnerability. It won't happen to me. That's the quote I'm just reading, man. It's funny. Many people falsely believe that accidents happen to others, but never to them. They know accidents can happen, and they know that anyone can be affected. However, they never really feel or believe they will be personally involved. Pilots who think this way are more likely to take chances and increase risk. This is a natural vulnerability of people in a developing state of adolescence. So when we're younger, we have more of this. When we're inexperienced, we have more of this too. Younger can equal inexperienced, that's all. Sometimes our experience is very limited. Sometimes our experience is very confined, or, if you only lived in a small town your whole life and you were the toughest guy in your whole town, you might have an invulnerability complex. You haven't been around that much. So this is either solved by age and experience. Macho. I can do it. Pilots who are always trying to prove that they are better than everyone else. Quote, I can do it. I'll show them, unquote. Pilots with this type of attitude will try to prove themselves by taking risks in order to impress others. While this pattern is thought to be a male characteristic, women are equally susceptible. This macho I can do it thing is absolutely now evenly spread nowadays in the United States. It's a problem anyone's susceptible to. It's important that we can be grounded. This is absolutely hazardous behavior. And of course, we're all probably thinking of someone in our mind that, man, yeah, that's that guy. I know who Rex is talking about. I want us all to look in the mirror. We are all susceptible to these hazardous attitudes, man. We are. We need to continue. This is why they do it in training quarterly for hazardous jobs, especially. And if you don't have this implemented into your training and apply it to yourself, especially if you're the chief, if you're the man in charge, then you have to apply it to yourself first. Otherwise, you will crash and burn your entire operation. And the last one, resignation. Quote, what's the use? Unquote. Pilots who think, what's the use? Do not see themselves as being able to make a great deal of difference in what happens to them. Like a fatalist, like, it's just karma, man. It's all going down like there's nothing I can do about it. When things go well, the pilot is apt to think that it is good luck. When things go badly, the pilot may feel, keyword feel, that someone is out to get them. This is in the training. Or him or her, or attribute it to bad luck. Someone must be out to get me. Stuff is not going my way. Someone's out to get me. It's someone else's fault. Develop a conspiracy of why someone's out to get you. How many people actually have someone out to get them for no reason? You know what I mean? So we can all learn from this. The pilot will leave the action to others, for better or worse. Sometimes such pilots will even go along with unreasonable requests just to be a, quote, nice guy, unquote. So, gosh darn it, these things are super, super critical to our performance. Now, in my training that I'm doing here, it's interesting because most of these sections have a huge amount of information and only a couple of test questions that are actually going to be on the exam. For the FAA, this one has like 7 questions instead of like 1 or 2. And it's a short deal, but there's more questions on this one to study for the exam than there are things that I just quoted 5 things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This tells me that this is 80% of aviation errors, business errors, family errors, church errors, study group errors, college errors, human factors due to bad attitudes. When we let our feelings and hormones regulate how we do life or how we do business or how we do relationships, it's hazardous. We have to take the reins of our own minds. We're told to do this in our instruction manual, guys. Our collective instruction manual for all Earth. We got to take the reins of our own minds and be disciplined and mature and approach things analytically with an operating system in place designed to basically deliver truth and reality in a safe way to where if it's about us, if we're so self-centered that we take everything in the world as a personal attack or a personal challenge, you're going to be anti-authority, you're going to be impulsive, you're going to be thinking you're invincible, you're going to come off as a macho, and you're going to then, if anything bad happens, you're going to shift the blame. Because it couldn't have been you, or could it? We have to be adults. We have to be disciplined. And we cannot think, the second you think you're above this, you are on the list. Okay, so I hope this is instructional. So much more over on the Patreon channel. We have all sorts of training over there. If you like this kind of stuff, if you want to actually learn something that has a half-life of more than 10 minutes, we don't go over frivolous things there that are boom, 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 where the expiration date is like 2 days. Because we're not covering the pipe smoke, the current events, things like that. We're talking about things that last, that are operational system adjustments for us, that are time-proven methodologies. We talk about systems. We talk about real things, how to drive you. Okay? We also talk about the RX classroom. We have a lot of fun. If you want to learn precision physics, physics are always valid. Whether that be the physics of morality, the physics of how a human rolls, the physics of biology, or physics itself, which is applied physics with the long-range precision stuff. Physics are like the laws of the universe are always the same. Gravity, okay, that's controversial, forgive me, like Newtonian physics, is always going to be true as far as we can test. The same is true with what we do over on our Patreon. We have a different style of doing things. It's not flash of the pan, emotional outburst, barking at the circus show, although that is fun to chase tires and comment on every piece of drama from Nancy Pelosi's basement or whatever's happening in the world. I do not know. We're talking about things that have solid, permanent realities that we are delinquent on. How much of your pie chart is focused on the short-term 2-second drama on the news? That's not being prepared, and that's not being wise. That stuff expires so quick. In fact, it is designed to attrit you. That means to burn you out. It is designed to continuously keep your RAM trying to process stuff that's changing every 2 seconds. Most of it is plain propaganda or made up. But it's distracting you from doing those solid, systematic, foundational adjustments, which then actually enhances your true preparedness, because you become an able man of the Most High. And you're operating in a way He would have us do things. And with that, we'd love to have you come and join us on Patreon. If you are a paid member, if you are actually in it, we have a paywall filter. That's for safety of the classroom and of the people there to reduce the dross, and also its proper weights and measures. We'd love to have you there. And if you'd like to support this operation and what we've been doing here for all these, it's been over 10 or 12 years or something now, we very much appreciate that. So thank you very much. And we'll catch you on the flip side, gentlemen. Rex out.